Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's deal with a few homework problems. I'm actually going to give you the following 10 homework problems. I'm going to give you a couple hints on how to get them accomplished. If you listen carefully, you'll probably get the answer to all of them. So here we go. Now, there are 7 days in a week, there are 20 hours in a day, and there are 60 minutes in an hour. Now, these problems are from right over here. You can see on this whole page, that's where these problems are coming from. So what we want to know is for number one, P and R. Well, first of all, we need to determine some truth about some of these things. So let's make a little truth table because it'll save us some time later. So if I have P, I have Q, I have R. So P, there are 7 days in a week. That is true. There are 20 hours in the day. That's false. There are 60 minutes in an hour. That's true. Now, that would be our basics. But let's go a little crazier because we notice we have some nots down here. So not P, well, if this is true, then not P has to be false. Not Q, well, if Q is false, not Q has to be true. And finally, not R, since R is true, not R has to be false. All right, so let's see if we can make some heads or tails of this. P and R. Is P true? Yes. Is R true? Yes. And so since it's and, it has to both be true. The answer is true. All right, so P and R would be true. P, now what's this symbol? This symbol would be and. So the key is P and Q both have to be true for it to be true. Otherwise, it would be false. So is P true? Yes, P is true. Is Q true? No, it is false. So since one or the other of them is false, the answer has to be false. So P and Q has to be false. Now, you'll notice I'm not writing these down because I'm wanting you to listen. You may have to pause, you may have to rewind, but you can listen carefully. Now, not P, I'm sorry, Q or R, which means one or the other of them is true. Well, Q is not true, so that doesn't work. R is true, so yes, Q or R would be true. Now, not P or Q, not P is false, and Q is also false. So the only way for an or to be false is if both P, not P, and Q are both false, and they are, so it's false. Remember, if either one of these were true, the whole thing would be true. So P or R can be true, but in this case, in fact, they're both true. So P or R true? Yes. How about not P and not R? Not P is false, and not R is also false. So both of them are false. The answer is false. There we go. So by going through and building a little table, it's going to help us out tremendously. Now, in this case, it tells us in number 7 to copy this data down. And in this case, now we're dealing with every option. So P could be true, Q could be true, P could be true, Q could be false, P could be false, T could be or Q could be true, or they could both be false. Well, the first thing I would suggest is that you fill in all missing blanks. So obviously, if Q is true, not Q is false. If Q is false, not Q is true. If Q is true, not Q is false. And finally, if Q is false, not Q is true. Now, this, remember, is an or. So being an or, one or the other needs to be true. So we have P or not Q, true and false. We got a true, so the answer is true. P or not Q, well, they're both true, so it's going to be true. P or not Q, well, P is not Q is not, so since neither one of them is true, it's false. P or not Q, P is not true, but Q is, so we're going to go with that's enough to make it true. Now, number 8 wants you to make an entirely separate chart. And it wants you to make a chart for P and Q. So remember, the only time P and Q is true is if both P and Q are true. So that would work here, but no, no, and no. So it'd be true, false, false, false. And that's building a table. Now, if we were to do not P or not Q, well, this way we only have to have one or the other. You do not have to have both true. So the question is not P true? Well, let's find out. Let's put a not P right over here. And so P is true, not P is false. P is true, not P is false. P is false, not P is true, not P is true. So false and false. So that's going to be false. Here it's going to be false and true. So that's good enough to be true because it's an or. Or means either one. True or false, that means true. True and true, that of course means true. Now, finally, if we take a look at the Venn diagram, which represents foreign language class, how many students choose only Spanish? How many students choose only Spanish? The answer is going to be 89 because there's only 89 in that system right there that is only in the Spanish group. How many students choose Spanish and French? Well, that would be where it crosses over. That's 15. And finally, describe the classes of the three people in the non-intersecting portion of the French region chose. The three students chose to take only French classes. Only 3 of them chose to take French classes. So, help you out a little bit with your homework and should give you an idea. Those 10 problems are due tomorrow.